Una película que diera las alucinaciones de LSD. Si tomara LSD to change the young mind of all the world.
These are excerpts from preliminary works for a movie that was never finished. Dune, the movie adaptation of Frank Herbert's novel, was a project that kept Alexandro Jodorowsky occupied in the mid-70s. He got the authorization for doing movie adaptation pretty cheap because the plot was considered to be unfilmable, by the Hollywood mainstream guys at least. Jodorowsky looked for and found comrades in arms in H.R. Giger, who later on became so important for the Alien movies, and in an English sci-fi illustrator named Voss, who is responsible for the most amazing spaceship images in the world. And least but not last, he talked this crazy French guy into the game, the one called Jean Giraud, aka Moebius, with whom he had done comics before. Here you see some of the sketches Moebius did for Dune. If you have further interest for the subject, there was a documentary film about the terrific collapse of Jodorowsky's project. I guess the documentary is from 2013. Anyway, the crazy ideas and visual fireworks of Jodorowsky and his group was out in the open. Many people in Hollywood had access to them, and so it's maybe not so strange that many movies from the American dream machinery bear strong similarities to the Dune project. Alien and Star Wars, for instance. And the latter, Star Wars, always comes to my mind as a comparison to describe the world of the Incal, because in both universes there is the same amount of complexity, key characters with similar personalities, and yes, this includes the robots, and there's sort of a similar blend of science and magic. But it's pretty pointless, of course, to discuss the question who came first any further, because even though the Incal universe bears some similarities with Star Wars, it's so different at the same time, so unique and out there. As I said in my last video, where I gave you an overview of my European sci-fi comics collection, the Incal is divided into 6 chapters. Volume 1, The Black Incal. Volume 2, The Incal of Light. Volume 3, In Deepest Depths. Volume 4, In Highest Highs. Volume 5, In Far Distance. Volume 6, In Next Proximity. It's easily to notice that you have this doubling of themes, combined with a systematic dichotomy. Black Incal, Incal of Light. Deepest Depths, Highest Highs. Far Distance, Next Proximity. It's one of the leitmotifs that is played out throughout the saga, up until a central androgynous character, who is male and female at the same time, because he or it is androgynous, combining 2 principles, so to speak. And of course, there is the dichotomy of good and bad, and the characters who have to navigate between these antagonisms. That being said, the main characters are neither pure nor evil, and especially John Defoe, the anti-hero / hero of the epos, is exactly that. An anti-hero and an hero as well. In the beginning, Defoe is an anti-hero, not to say an asshole, a sloppy, drinking, whoring, sleazy detective, a film noirish, Marlowish protagonist, but without any moral compass. But with the story developing and evolving, he changes his attitude quite a bit, even though, of course, in the limits of his personality, or with the limitations of his personality. Besides the dichotomy theme, the whole story has actually a circular structure. I don't want to give anything more away, but you will understand when you finish the story. Of all the 6 chapters, maybe number 1 is my favorite, most likely because it's the one that I enjoyed immediately when I read it the first time decades ago. And the reason for that is that it's literally pure action, a whirlwind of insane ideas, and the magic esoteric parts are not so dominant as in the further chapters. We are literally thrown into the story along with John Defoe, who is thrown from an aptly named suicide alley down into an acid sea. We get more than just one glimpse on his opportunistic character and his mediocre life as a private detective, and we're in this strange and well-thought-out universe right from the first panel, and it sucks us in deeper and deeper. But even the esoteric elements are presented in a humorous manner. For an example, the first time we come to know the Incal and its powers is when it is swallowed by Defoe's pet, a bird made out of concrete. And this bird suddenly starts to speak. Not just to speak, he speaks in tongues. It heals people, which causes quite a mess, since the bird's new disciples trample right through Defoe's flat, which was already a mess before. Jodorowsky himself denied to believe in esoteric stuff. He just thought it would be a good plot device, and after reading the Incal, you have to admit that he was up to something. Even though it annoyed me a bit back in the day, and even though it doesn't annoy me today, the esoterics in the Incal are still not my favorite aspects of the saga. Jodorowsky claims that the basic ideas for the story appeared in one of his dreams, and that he tried to stay as truest as possible to this dream and its inner dream logic. Anyway, this comic is too much an overflowing well of fresh ideas of the most and different kinds to pin it down to just one aspect. So you are introduced to a future society with different social classes. The upper class is running around with a nimbus to show their nobleness. All in all, it's quite a pessimistic, but you may say realistic look into the future, with a complete degenerate at the top. It's one of these comic stories, or comic universes, where you feel able to write a travel guide for this world after reading it. And at the same time, you are aware that this world is much bigger than you can ever imagine. The Incal is one of the comics you have to read multiple times to appreciate it completely. And it gets better with each reading, believe me. This is, of course, very much due to the art from Moebius. His art was groundbreaking at the time, and still is. Look at the work of Brandon Graham, for instance, and you see that Moebius is maybe dead, but his spirit lives on. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.